All right, we're right back at it with part 3 of our live stream. This is, of course, for the Seinfeld Lego set. We have gotten through the first 5 bags. There's only 9 bags in the whole thing, so we're over halfway there. You can see Jerry's apartment is coming right along. And we'll give just a few more seconds for anybody who wants to hop on. While we're waiting, we'll go ahead and get bag number 6 open. Right, get the little bag open here, and we'll be ready to roll. All right, let's make it happen. We'll keep Jerry in the background there, and we'll have Kramer hang out with him. Of course, we'll let Elaine kind of hang out back there. And the coffee table book, till we get a coffee table made, we'll keep it over there. All right, for bag number 6, we start out by, looks like making a little bit more of the detail in the kitchen area. So far, the kitchen area has had some of the very best little builds, so pretty excited to continue with it. Go ahead and get these guys put together. This is going to be kind of like a little bit of a backsplash sort of area. I think, if I'm looking at it right, this may also yield a mini build of a paper towel dispenser. So I have to say that's probably the first time I've ever built a paper towel dispenser in Lego before. I guess there's a first time for everything, maybe. I don't know. So we'll see. Right. It always floors me how they're able to get these little details in there, and they use some really atypical kind of like building methods to do it. Let's see. So I think that this may be the paper towels right here, and that it's supposed to look like, a little paper towel dispenser. I think that's the idea. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on the money on that. And that goes right above the sink. Okay, moving right along. I have to say, I think this might be the smallest bag out of all of them. There's really not a lot to bag number 6, it seems. All right. Or at least that's what it looks like, anyway. Maybe I'll get into it and it'll actually be kind of extensive, but it doesn't seem that way. I think this bag is more about finishing this area. Excuse me. This little nook. Might be better if I zoom in just a little, where we can see more of what I'm doing. There we go. Had a little bit of trouble lining that up, actually. looks like we're just building up a little bit more of the height. Just getting the walls up to snuff. I'm curious if they're going to go very far with doing any of like the random boxes of cereal and baseball cards and things that Jerry has above the refrigerator in this. I don't know if that's something they're going to go for at all or not, because I've not looked very closely just yet. But I'm sure whatever they do, it'll be all right. Or, you know, they may mess it up completely. Who knows? No, I think that we're building that right now on this next page. So if you're like me and you're a fan of the random stuff that Jerry has sitting on the shelf, then this will probably make you pretty happy, if I had to guess. Just got done watching episode 2 of the Book of Boba Fett. Really wild. Absolutely loved it. Don't worry, I'm not going to spoil a thing. Needless to say, definitely check it out. So this is always something that happens every now and then. You'll get a Lego piece that's kind of fairly deeply scratched. You can see that right there. A really deep scratch right there. So, you know, you get what you get. But still, every now and then you'll get something that had a little bit of a hard time in the factory. Kind of makes you wonder the set of circumstances, though, that kind of lead to partial destruction of a Lego piece. Like, does it get hung in like some kind of machine, or is that am I thinking too hard? I don't know. All right, so got those there. So it looks like what we're building almost like a facade of things being in a cabinet that aren't really there, in order to kind of conserve some of the space and keep the walls making sense. Because we put in this black piece here, and then we top that with a couple of kind of finishing pieces on the side that kind of end that shelf. And when we turn this around, maybe it'll have the effect that I think it's going to have, but I guess we'll see. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Hard to say. All right. Okay. All right, now, as you can see, I think that this is a pretty good illusion of these random boxes being in the cabinet, like right above Jerry's refrigerator, like we always see in the show. So I actually think that's pretty cool. I really didn't know how they were going to solve that with like the random cereal boxes and things. I didn't know how that was going to be integrated. So I think this was a pretty good little way to do it. Just a little bit of micro detail, really. Okay, and that goes right up here, right above the refrigerator. And it looks good. Now I think that we'll be building some more shelving like that somewhere, but first we're actually going to complete some of the detail above this. So Now I have the Book of Boba Fett end credits theme stuck in my head, so good times. All right, get that. Like I said, I think this is just some of this is just the overhead, like over the shelving. And it amazes me how high this is going. Like it's going to be way above minifigure height. So I think that's pretty cool. One thing that would have been horrible is if this had kind of cut the height short and your diorama, you wouldn't be able to like do any good photographs because, you could see the top of it. Okay. And it's funny because it's the kind of thing that they would have to adjust for, like on the set of a TV show, to make sure that they built it up high enough so that they can get pretty decent camera angles. So it's funny because this is a TV show set. It's not meant to be like a realistic looking apartment necessarily. It's more like, hey, this is a Lego recreation of a set you could film something on. And I think that's probably the most novel thing they could do. And it's certainly what they're doing with all their like TV sitcom sets. What are the odds that we could possibly get a Married with Children set? I'm thinking odds are low. That show is not politically correct, but then again, Seinfeld wasn't necessarily politically correct either. And here we are with a Lego Ideas set. So I don't know. Make it happen. I would give good money for a Bundy living room and kitchen. Heck, they don't even have to do the whole house. Just do the living room and the kitchen. I'll be happy. See, now I feel like I'm getting greedy about Lego sitcom sets. I have all these crazy delusions of grandeur about the different sitcom sets they can do. Just goes to show that it's never enough. Maybe I need to be the one to submit my pitiful Lego Ideas recreation of like the Bundy's house or something. Embarrass myself enough to where I leave the Lego community. Some of these guys that submit these Lego Ideas projects, I look at the project and I think, number one, like how did you get the time to like put into this to do this? Number two, like why don't you just work for Lego? Because clearly you have skills that are beyond, imagination. Three, how do they get the resources a lot of the time to do this? I really think it takes someone with a special way of thinking in order to properly design a lot of these sets. And I just don't think that it's a very common skill. I have all the respect for the people that can do this and make these kinds of sets a reality. I am very happy to follow the instructions verbatim from an instruction manual. That's what I'm happy to do. All right. I have no preconceived notions that I would be able to do any better than any of these guys. It's funny, even the things that I would, maybe complain about, I know better than to think that I could do any better on some of this. Only the most obvious things have I ever complained about and thought, well, maybe I could have done something a little bit better. It's like they did the Statue of Liberty set years ago, and the whole set's beautiful looking, but then when it gets to the face of the Statue of Liberty, they put the shield piece for the face. I don't know if anybody else remembers that on here, but man, it was crushing to see them ruin the entire set with just one bad decision on a piece. And that's the kind of thing that you never want to see happen. Of course, I actually think the cooler Statue of Liberty set to have gotten, and I can't believe I ignored it, and I did. I completely ignored it when it came out, was the Lego Movie 2 Statue of Liberty, like, what was it called? Apocalypseburg or something. where it was like this giant halfway demolished Statue of Liberty, and it was like a whole city built around it. I can't believe that I just flat out ignored that. That looked awesome, like in retrospect. But I just wasn't even thinking about it at the time. It was the furthest thing from my mind. And I missed out because I'm sure I could have got that set on an extreme discount. And I didn't even care enough. And, it's my loss, so. I also don't think that at that time when, like, the second Lego movie was out, I don't really think that my taste in Lego was really fully formed just yet. Like, I think I was still kind of a baby Lego collector, if that's even a thing. At that time, it was still all about, like, licensed sets. And yes, I know I'm building a licensed set. But now I'm so much more diverse in, like, what I like with Lego sets. Now, if it's just a good design, I want it. I credit the switch up in my taste with Lego to another Lego Ideas set, and that's the Old Fishing Store, which to me is an incredible classic now. That set really ended up changing my taste in these sets. I think because it was the first time I ever came to the realization that you didn't need any sort of license or anything for the set to just be incredible. Absolutely incredible. All right, so this is interesting. All these little, like, kind of half details here. You have this little almost carton of what almost looks like orange juice of some sort, or is that a vitamin bottle? Not really sure. Huh. All these little details are super cool, but every now and then you can kind of get lost in translation for what what exactly they're supposed to be. But a lot of the times, it's just context. It won't make sense until you put it with everything else and it's all attached. Let's see. Oh. Misread the directions. So is anybody also watching the Book of Boba Fett? The latest episode was really, really out there. Like, it was really crazy. They're going to a level I didn't think they would go to with the show, and it's truly fantastic. I didn't also know that in a Boba Fett show that we would also be getting into, like, Tusken Raider culture. Like, I didn't know that would be a thing, and it turned out it was something that I didn't know I wanted, and it's pretty great. So, has a lot of ambition. All right, and now they're really going for it when it comes to these little details, because now they're really, really hitting it hard. There's so many tiny little things. Gee, man. Got a little coffee cup that stacks on top of this. And they're making good on all the, like, random stuff that I was talking about earlier in, like, the last live stream, that I was commenting on how fun it was to look at all the random stuff that Jerry's got on these shelves. And I really thought they would probably kind of skimp on that a little bit, but nope, they went for it. Oh yeah, I think if I was a more patient person, I would probably have the discipline to do such a thing. But instead, I feel like, I don't know, I think it's the streaming age has caused me to, like, I want new streaming content just as quick as I can get it. And sometimes I feel like I'm in an ocean of streaming content and I've got a straw. And I have eventually sucked the well dry when it comes to what's there. So I'm looking for my next streaming fix. It's also amazing how little physical media, like I actually purchased. Like my brother, he's still really good about buying lots of physical media, and he's really into the steel books and stuff like that. So, and it's thanks to him that I get to see a lot of things anyway. But it's definitely the way that I consume media has absolutely changed. I don't know if it's for the better, or for the worse, or if it's honestly, I think it's one of those deals where it's just different. It's just different. We're in an age of just pure digital entertainment. So even the way I consume like Lego content has become really digital. I'm watching so much Lego YouTube. It's crazy. I ended up watching so much Lego YouTube that it was inevitable that I was going to eventually, in some small, tiny little way, become a part of Lego YouTube. Um, I finally turned into what I was watching just constantly all the time. And I don't know, I think for me, like half of the allure of some of these Lego channels is vicariously Lego shopping. Like some of these guys, like especially the Canadian YouTubers, they still have Toys R Us, like in Canada. And so I'm watching these like vlogs that they're doing of them going out and looking for sets. And I'm just taken aback when they walk into a fully functional, completely normally operational like Toys R Us, and it looks like, oh, it's no different than just a few years ago when they were still open in the United States. I can't even believe it. Can't even believe it. You hear celebrities all the time, they're threatening to leave the United States, and they're always saying that they're going to move to Canada. But it's always like for a political purpose, right? It's always they're mad about something. Well, for me, it's going to be that I'm mad about Toys R Us. And it's just me constantly threatening to move to Canada so that I can go to Toys R Us at will. Which apparently there are some Toys R Us's, or there is one Toys R Us or something that they opened in like a mall. I don't know how that's gonna. Are they just supposed to be like little pop-up stores now? I mean, is that really what we're doing? I don't know if Toys R Us like works like that. Oh yeah, man. Yeah, Toys R Us runs. I was such a sap about my Toys R Us when it was closing. I took like all sorts of video in it that I've never published to my channel or anything like that. I recorded all the closeout stuff. Yeah, Macy's apparently. My brother told me that he saw one the other day. I have yet to lay eyes on that, but who knows? Maybe it's a really cool thing, but it's kind of weird to me that it wouldn't be like this superstore. You know, like I always think that half of the appeal of Toys R Us was that it was this ginormous like destination. It was like an event, to go there. It was pure, just like extravagance when it comes to a retail store, like overkill. I think that was part of the crazy appeal of Toys R Us, that it was just pure overkill. Ah, lost a piece beside of a G.I. Joe. A sentence like that might sound weird to anybody else, but in my world, it's completely, ones are now a church and a for-profit university. Wow, a church. Oh, man. Well, I always kind of felt like I was having a religious experience when I went into Toys R Us, so maybe that's accurate. Oh, man. Fanboys Forever turns blasphemous. No, not intentional, not intentional. So what they turned mine into, and I still can't believe it. They turned mine, which was the one in Lexington, Kentucky, in case there's anybody watching that's familiar with this one. They turned it into I believe, a Burlington coat factory. Oh, and Ollie's. Oh, man. There's some real irony in that, William, because I think that I think a whole lot of the product drops that Ollie's has been getting toy-wise has been from like defunct Toys R Us. So there could be some real irony in that. There's probably some products that are setting at your Ollie's that may have been intended for release at Toys R Us. So that's kind of an awkward, kind of a weird thing. It kind of goes full circle, I guess. Okay, so I was right. This makes a ton more sense now that it's fully assembled into one of those like random cabinets. Now I can see that it's like books and boxes and little bits of this and that and cups. And now that, because we were assembling it from the back, and that's why it was kind of seeming weird at first. But now, like in context, this is perfect. You have all the little boxes stacked. So there you go. Yeah. You know, one of the last times I was at my local Ollie's, I was looking and they had a Joffrey or Jeffrey, however you want to say it, figure, like one of those little like bendy Joffrey the giraffe figures. And I was like, yep, I know where you're from. There's no hiding that. So I don't know if this was just like me going to the dark side or what, but when my local Toys R Us, I say local, I mean it was like within an hour and a half. That was the closest I had. But when they were closing and they were trying to get rid of all this stuff, it was really hard for me not to like try to, and this sounds really weird, and this is the first and only time I've ever been tempted to do this. I almost wanted to like get a piece of one of the fixtures or one of the shelves, like a little bolt or something. And I was thinking, you know, man, I should take this and put it like in a little case and be like, I walked away with like this tiny little piece of this Toys R Us that's been like super important to me, you know, since I was like 3 or 4. And that Toys R Us was where I got Batman Returns toys and things. And I'm, you know, like this Toys R Us been with me for a while. And I didn't do it, but man, I thought about it. I thought about, you know, what could I get that wasn't like nailed down so that I can preserve some of this, you know, that this feels like it's all going to waste, or felt like I needed to put it in a little private museum. I don't know what I would have done with it, but it was a crazy idea. Ah, yes, the infamous photo shoot of George and his tidy whities here. True television gold. Once again, we're going to be applying a sticker. And once again, I wonder if I should handle the hat for shoppers. Oh man, that's great. Oh, that's great. Well, I'm glad that you made good, because, you know, I regret not making good on that, because it would have been neat to have walked away with just a little something. It's always funny when a place closes. Not really, you know, funny, but it's always, I guess, odd when they're getting rid of so much stuff that eventually they're selling all their like furniture and fixtures and stuff. I probably would have had a lot of awkward questions for them, though. I would have been like, can you guarantee me that this furniture was here in circa like 1993? Because I'll get it if it was here in 93. It's weird. I don't know if I even have the heart to walk into my old Toys R Us building now that it's a Burlington coat factory. I don't know if I could, like, I've had a lot of stores that I love close, but nothing was on the level of Toys R Us, so I don't know. Don't know if I want to do that to myself. I even made my brother pose outside of the store beside the closing sign. I was like, come on, just, you know, we'll stand right here and we'll just seem, and I was trying to be goofy about it, but the truth was I was devastated. And that's how I ended up in counseling. No, I'm kidding. I love that the portrait of George is so bizarrely just placed right there in the kitchen. It's like, there he is. We're gonna say it's tasteful art that Jerry has decided to decorate with. All right. I do appreciate how they found ways to incorporate all these little Easter eggs into like little random parts that aren't, I mean, like none of these Easter eggs insist on themselves. And when I say that, I guess what I mean is that they're just sort of in view, like off to the side and like in the computer room. And they're never like the main event or like drawing attention to themselves. I feel like if they would have beat you over the head with the fan service, that would have been a really, bad idea for sure. Oh, yeah, the Superman decal. And I'm really glad that they made that happen because that's the kind of thing that You know how this stuff is. There's always some kind of excuse about some kind of licensing or somebody didn't want to make it happen. But Warner Brothers was always very good about, I think they wanted to kind of hype up more of that Superman connection in Seinfeld. And Superman was never disrespected by Jerry either because he loved Superman. So it was always like, just funny observational humor. And for them to acknowledge it finally in that commercial in the 90s with Superman and Jerry, or the early 2000s, whenever it was, that's a great commercial. That was, as a young teenager seeing that on TV, I just thought that was the coolest. Truth is, I can't even remember who played Superman's voice in that, or if it was just, just a stand-in, kind of just whoever, or what it was. Maybe there was something more significant to it that I didn't realize, but seems like somebody played Superman's voice that was kind of like, kind of moment when you find out who it is. I can't remember. All right. Next bag number 7. And yes, it's going to be the bag of George. So, I don't know if it was intentional to have you do the sticker of George and the tidy whities and then have you literally build George like a few minutes later. But if that was intentional, I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. If it was unintentional, we're just going to call it Lego serendipity. George's angry face seems incredibly angry. Like incredibly angry. Like, I know that George is kind of bitter, but maybe this is, and it's his only face too, which is even funnier. I mean, look at how angry. I guess George is chronically, aggravated. I guess he's constantly disappointed in his life and probably one of the most neurotic characters in TV history. So, it makes a modicum of sense. And, a few years ago, this is where they would have stopped with George, and they would have had a little bit of printing maybe on the side to suggest hair. But nope. Now that we're in modern Lego, you can see that we actually get a bald headpiece. And the results are sort of hilarious. I mean, there's almost a suggestion of it almost kind of looks like he's wearing like a bald cap and has hair like fixed on the sides. Exactly. Yeah, that's it. It looks like a bald cap. It looks like, a human is wearing a bald cap. But it also has the funny effect of making his head look a little taller. So there's almost like a Frankenstein. George is monstrous, people. I just want you to understand that. You thought George was bitter before, like in Seinfeld? There's nothing more bitter than this. Oh, and George hilariously comes with a big baguette. Here, we're going to put in his hand. And George comes with a fishing pole. Oh my gosh. Absolutely hilarious. Who'd have ever thought a set like this would have been possible? Not me. Not me. But you know what? I'm starting to learn that anything is possible with the Lego stuff these days. Now it just feels like it's just a matter of time for everything. Honestly, the Lego stuff seems unlimited. It almost seems like a status thing too, to like try to be a Lego minifigure somehow or another. Sorry about that. I had to turn the heat off for a second. It's freezing out there tonight, but I think I kind of overdid it. Started to feel like I was in the oven down here, so can't have that. Once again, not a whole tremendous lot to this bag. It will not take long to get through this one either. So that's cool. Means we're all the closer to the end of this thing. It feels like so much of the work was just getting like the floor and the walls up. And after that, I mean, gee, this thing is breezy. If you want like a breezy build, really not that stressful. It doesn't feel like you're, exerting yourself and trying to concentrate on getting every little thing like just perfectly. This is your set right here, man. This is just a breezy good time. There's also something like subconsciously relaxing about there being a living room in front of you. I don't know. I actually expected Lego to reveal the Book of Boba Fett Lego sets more around the premiere of the show. But I have a feeling that there must be some spoilery elements in some of those sets that Disney has been like, absolutely not. You can't show any of these until like right after, we air the finale of the show. Because the set numbers were leaked about, what the sets are, but who knows? Oh, man. Oh, boy. The heart attack. Did I have a heart attack? And George's constant rants about how he didn't get the ice cream when he had his tonsils removed. Oh, my Lord. It's too much. I also like George's color. What does he turn purple? I think he either turns purple or blue or something when he goes to the medicinal healer, the naturalist. What's funny is when I watch that episode and I see like the spiritual healer guy with all the home remedies for everything, it seems ridiculous, right? The guy with all of the spiritual remedies that claims that he can fix all this stuff and it's going to be, cheaper, not to listen to conventional medicine and all this. And it seems like, just something that's more of a gag. Yeah, exactly. You're right about that, because I think they lost millions of dollars with the Baby Yoda merch not being out there, because the mad rush for them to get it out. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. It's probably never been a turnaround like that. But like I was saying about the Medicine Man, I actually had an experience similar to this when I was a kid. I'll just put it like this: I had a family member, and if my brother's watching this at any point, then he'll know what I'm talking about. Had a family member who had some health problems, and they knew a guy who was supposed to be a natural healer. This sounds like I'm making this up. I'm not making this up. And so, that natural healer got invited to their home. And it was like a presentation of him describing all the different things and like pretty much having a doctor's visit with this family member. And I observed some of it. Like, I saw some of this happening. And yeah, it was wild. It was wild. So now when I see that on that episode with George consulting, that the natural healer guy that Kramer knows, like I sort of lived some of that one time. That exists. Like, that's a thing. Like, that's not and it was, yeah, it was pretty wacky. It was pretty wacky. It wasn't quite as wacky as what the show makes it out to be. And I think the guy who I witnessed, I think he was fairly well-intentioned. But pseudoscience, avoid the pseudoscience if at all possible. But yeah, they better be ready with some spoilery Book of Boba Fett merchandise, because sometimes I think that's the only thing that gives Star Wars its true longevity, is just the massive amount of merchandise revenue that it kicks up. It is undeniable. All right. So what we're building here is, I think, like a little bit of the doorway that we're going to get the other door kind of going on in the corner. So I think that's what we're doing. And we have, there isn't a lot to this bag, but there are several little pieces. So it may end up taking a little bit more than I thought it would for this particular bag. Maybe I didn't give it enough credit for how long it may actually take. So I hate just absolutely rushing through this stuff. Today, from my wife, had bought me for Christmas, had bought me some of the new Monkey Kid sets because I told her that's what I wanted. That had come out on January 1st, so I just kind of waited and she got me those. Well, the real tragedy with those sets would be to sit there and be trying to marathon through those. You're going to lose a tremendous amount of your enjoyment of those if you feel like you're under some kind of time crunch or something. So I try to be more aware of that. Every single time I have pushed myself, it doesn't work out. It works great for smaller sets, but every other time it will just make you miserable trying to. It has the effect of making it feel like a job, and I don't want that. Should be pure fun, pure enjoyment. Now that you've given me the idea about doing some Legos from the heart attack episode, now I sort of want it to be a buildable ambulance, and you get the two EMTs who end up fighting each other on the way to the hospital. Oh, yep, I can just see it now. And I would definitely go for a Curb Your Enthusiasm Lego set of some kind. I don't know if it would be like part of Larry's house or something. You couldn't build the whole house because you'd run into some serious money. As long as I got Leon in the set. If I got Larry, David, and Leon, I would be perfectly happy with a Curb Your Enthusiasm set, no matter what form it took. Maybe Jeff to go along with him, and Richard Lewis. What a world we would live in if we had a Richard Lewis Lego minifig. Officially sanctioned Richard Lewis. Brilliant comedian. I was sort of concerned about Richard Lewis when he announced that he wouldn't get to be in. Well, originally he didn't think he'd be in any of Curb Your Enthusiasm season 11, but he was able to show up for one episode. And I sort of didn't know what was happening. He claims it was because of back surgery that he had to recover from. I certainly hope that that's all. I know that's still very serious, but I hope that it wasn't anything more than that. Hopefully his health is great. I saw something really unfortunate on the news the other night about Betty White. And, of course, everybody loves Betty White. And it was that they were working on this documentary. You all may have seen this. They were working on this documentary, and it was titled Betty White, 100 Years of something or another, 100 Years of Laughs or something like that. And they announced, I guess it's nothing to laugh at, but they announced that they were going to be changing the title because, as we know, Betty was just a few weeks shy there of making it to 100. And, it might have been a little presumptuous to have went ahead and titled a documentary like that. Maybe a lesson in not, I don't want to say not counting your chickens before they hatch. No matter how I say this, it's just sounding horribly disrespectful. I don't know. I saw it, and it was a sad little thing. I thought, oh, man, that's not good. Honestly, yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't know, if I were them, this may be presumptuous as well, I think I would have probably been pretty stubborn about the 100 Years title. I think I just still would have went with it. Honestly, I think Betty deserves to be inducted into the, hey, almost good enough. I think we should honorarily just say she was 100. I really do. Like, it's just, Betty deserved it. She deserved it. She was a gift. Have to get these little hairs off this door. Yeah, round it up. Round it up. Because, I mean, think about it. We're sort of, depending on your definition of when life starts, maybe we can just sort of say, hey, there's that 9 months, ahead of time, and you can take it or leave it, about how many of those months you want to add on, maybe, have a few of those in reserve, possibly. There's no good way to put on these door stickers. I swear there's no good way to do it. These door stickers are maddening because there's not really a good guideline to follow with them, and they're just awkwardly spaced. They're absolutely maddening. You can start to put it on and you realize when it's going off the rails, like when you're out of that like comfort zone with the Lego sticker, when you've not quite got it lined up, and you're like abort. Well, it ain't perfect, but I think that's good enough. See, the worst part about them is you have to leave all this negative space right here. And it trips you up when you're trying to get it like lined out and you're wondering, is that right? But yeah, I mean, that's right. That's how they show it. So, yeah, good enough. Okay. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, not too bad. I'll take it. It's been a lot worse. Been a lot worse. Okay. Doorknob. Could you imagine if doorknobs were really like this? I mean, this is quite a stretch to say that's a doorknob. Big round like mushroom piece of plastic. All right. And then we take your door frame, get it in there. There we go. And this ends up going here, kind of making a little corner, if you will. Okay. Good. And now we're just finishing out that door frame. One of those big column pieces. I've seen people say quite a bit that they would really, and I think there's been some Lego Ideas projects that they've tried on this. I think there are some folks who really, really want Spaceballs Lego, like the Star Wars parody. And that might be neat. I don't know. It's not something like I absolutely have to have. But once I heard the idea for it, I don't know. It sounded pretty cool. I might buy a Spaceballs Lego set if they came out with one. Can't happen, huh? Oh, yeah, that's right. Because wasn't it George Lucas who said that they can't ever do merchandise? Oh, you're right. I forgot about that little caveat. I think George said they couldn't merchandise it. But you see, though, what if, right. What if George Lucas, okay, Mel's still alive. And so maybe we can make a little deal here. That maybe George can get like part of the money. But now that George doesn't, now that he doesn't like actually own Star Wars, is that even valid? Oh, George. There's only one George Lucas. For better or worse. Mostly for better. Mostly. I've always enjoyed hearing this story about George Lucas, that apparently when all of his rich neighbors in, I guess, where does he live, in Orange County or something in California, when they wouldn't allow him to put his Star Wars museum like in the county, he took the land and he sold it for like low cost housing to like teach them a lesson. That's wonderfully vindictive. George, I think, had said that if they thought they were too good for a Star Wars museum, then they need to, they should be willing to be more charitable or be more community minded. I just loved it because he threw shade at them in such a way that it helped people, it benefited families, and that's as good as you could ever get, I think, when it comes to teaching lessons. I learned some things recently about the production of The Land Before Time, which, as we know, is the classic late 80s animated dinosaur film. And what really fascinated me about what I learned was that apparently George Lucas and Steven Spielberg had a whole lot of creative input because they were the executive producers on the movie. And they basically argued with Don Bluth, the main animator on the movie, that he couldn't make it quite as disturbing as he wanted to. Because both George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, at the time, their kids were really young, I think, or fairly young. And I think they were very, very much minded about what, how much grief you can put in a kid's movie and how sad it can be. But good Lord, The Land Before Time made me so sad as a child that I can't imagine it being rougher than it already is. Not saying it wasn't a great movie, because it was. But it was fascinating. I watched a couple of different little documentaries about it and some of the changes that they made to The Land Before Time. They even went as far as to bring in like a child psychiatrist and ask their advice, like from from an impartial source about what was okay in terms of grief, in terms of loss to like put in a kid's movie. So there was definitely some care put in. Good night. That was an emotional wreck when I was a kid trying to watch The Land Before Time. Yay, it's another door piece. Okay. So, I think, no, this isn't even the last door sticker that we have to apply. It's not even the last one, people. Good Lord. All right. So, well, it's a little confusing because is there supposed to be another door piece? Like another door frame, I mean? I'm not... Oh, there it is. I found it. It had slipped away. So one side of it is going to be the gray door facing. Let's just see how not awful I can get this. Ideally, you would want to have some kind of better method, but with these door stickers, all of that goes out the window. Because like I said, you don't have the kind of framing on how to place the sticker, and you just don't have the kind of reference you need. Instead, you're just kind of shambling around in the dark about how to do it. If I became the CEO of Lego, first step, we're doing prints. You can forget the stickers. We're doing prints. See, look at this. It's a disaster. we're taking these sets that, are they're so pricey, and we're giving the people what they want. We're eliminating the stickers. It's for the people. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.com. We are liberating fed-up collectors who simply cannot stand to have to put any more stickers on their Lego sets. We're giving them an all print. Which, what's funny is the Lego Juniors, what is it, 4 Plus or something? Maybe it's 4 Plus. Maybe that's what they call that product line. All of the stuff in that is prints, every bit of it. Because I guess they're thinking, is, hey, kids probably can't really put on these stickers. So we're going to have it all be child-friendly. We won't force these kids to put on these perfect little stickers. But what about the adults? Sure, we can put on the stickers, but we don't want to. So we possess the ability to do it. It doesn't mean that any of us would ever in a million years choose to sit there and try to get these just right, just perfect. But you know what? Hey, it's all right. See, I can do it, Lego, but I don't want to do it. See, I accidentally, because that one turned out fairly decent, I accidentally, proved I could do it just then. Now I don't even have an argument anymore. Oh, well. All right. The other side, and I should probably apply the sticker before I put it in the door frame, honestly. Thank goodness this will be the last door frame, the last door sticker, the door face sticker. I don't want to have to do any more of these. These are nightmarish. Okay. Yeah, that one went pretty good too. All right. Get out while I'm ahead here. Oops, wrong side. Click, click. We have one of the big bricks over top of it. And we've got a doorknob. In quotation marks, a doorknob. It's definitely an in quotation marks doorknob if I've ever seen one. Okay, right there. And look, we have a shack. Certainly what it looks like until we get the right placement going. Okay, finishing the framing up. Getting everything evened out. Now we got to line it with the gray. That will help secure everything and kind of brace it together. I have an idea for a show for PBS. They just need to call me. I'll happily sell them the rights to my idea for the show. It's called This Old Lego Set. You know, very original name. And it's where they do like Lego renovations, like old sets. Then there's Ask This Old Lego Set. And then there's the new Lego workshop with Norm Abram, who's just going to be hosting it and pretending like he's a Lego expert. I'd watch it. I'd definitely watch it. It's like the legendary, I think it might have been the last episode of Freakazoid, the old show, where Norm Abram plays himself in it after he gets kidnapped. And Freakazoid has to rescue him. And that sounds like a joke. It's not a joke. It really happened. As a kid, I couldn't believe it. Because I was part of the, I think, 2% of people on the planet who was a big fan of Norm Abram's New Yankee Workshop show, and also someone who watched Freakazoid religiously. So, yeah, I would say that's probably 2% of the viewership, maybe, if they were lucky. Okay. I got the first inkling the other day of Freakazoid not being like a really super happy creative experience. And it was, I was watching a little documentary about Superman, the animated series, and how it came together. And the Bruce Timm, the guy who was behind Batman, the animated series and all that, he was talking about being miserable or feeling like he had played out Freakazoid and it not really being what he had originally intended it to be, or something like that. And it just kind of shocked me a little bit. But there's also a huge amount of controversy about Freakazoid. Ask Mike Allred, and I don't know if it ever got resolved, but Mike Allred is the famous artist. He does a lot of Marvel stuff these days. I don't know if any of you all are familiar with Madman, the comic book character that Mike Allred created. I think he and his wife created Madman. And it's a brilliant character. It's a great character. I have a couple of the trades. He's been around for a while, too. And the similarities between Madman and Freakazoid are a little too much to overcome visually. And Mike Allred even claims that they called him, telling him that they were wanting to do a Madman cartoon. And he was saying, yeah, he was really excited about it. And then they called him back and said, you know, we're not going to do that anymore. And he said just a few months later, he heard that they were doing Freakazoid. Yeah, man, those his art for Batman 66. Now that's the real stuff right there, man. That's the real stuff. And his Silver Surfer art too. It's fantastic. Aside from Jack King Kirby himself, I don't think there's anybody else I would rather see draw the Silver Surfer. I mean, it's just beautiful. Mike Allred is he's one of those guys I'd consider to be a living legend. Hopefully I'll get to meet him one of these days. And I hope that Madman eventually gets the respect it deserves. I feel like that if given to the right person, Madman could be, yeah, absolutely amazing. I feel like Madman could be something truly special if it was given to the right people, right circumstances, right time. And not only that, I think I know the guy who would be perfect for Madman. And I really think Guillermo del Toro has the right sensibility to take Madman and give it the dignity that it deserves. I think that's exactly the kind of character that he's drawn to. And I think that it would just be something that would be a really beautiful thing to see come together. I just know that if Madman ever got something like a movie or a really nice TV show, that the first thing a ton of people would say is, oh, that's a ripoff of that Freakazoid cartoon. And Mike Allred would die inside just a little bit, absolutely die inside, knowing that they, in all likelihood, ripped off Mike's creation. So God bless you, Mike. you're out there and you decided to randomly watch a Lego live stream of the Seinfeld set being built, Mike, I just want you to know we're on your side here at Fanboys Forever. We're true blue Mike Howard fans. True blue. Oh, that's cool. They have a little light fixture on here. Yeah, that's awesome, actually. And what's great is that they even considered, putting it in, that it's even there. It's not something you can even see that well through there. I'm honestly impressed by how much verticality there is with this set. Like, it goes a lot higher than I thought it would. There's just more going on, like, above than I expected there to be, which is nice. Now, here's a question for any of you all watching. Chances are, if you're watching this, you're in some fashion a toy collector. Have any of you all backed any of the HasLab projects from Hasbro? They did, of course, Galactus. They did the Sentinel. They've done a couple of failed ones, too, like the Rancor monster from Return of the Jedi. They did the Razor Crest from The Mandalorian, giant ship. They did Jabba's sail barge, which I wish I had the money and space for, but, They did Unicron from Transformers. Has anybody backed any of them? I have backed a couple of them. I did Galactus. And, he's still yet to materialize, but that's okay. Yep, a sail barge, man. I couldn't. You know what's even sadder is that it would be even more expensive now with some of the inflation and things, without getting political at all. I mean, it's just a fact that inflation is what it is. I think that it would have been that way no matter what, but, with this set of circumstances. But I bet it would have been even more expensive now. And that is crazy. I'm a huge Transformers fan, not quite as big as Brandon. Brandon's a bigger Transformers fan than I'll ever be. But for years, I wanted a Star Saber / Victory Saber from the Japanese Transformers Victory cartoon. And they finally did it. And, of course I was gonna shut up and back the thing because I'd complained for years that there wasn't a Star Saber. So I've got it backed. I really, really, really wanted, and almost did, back the G.I. Joe Sky Striker that they did. But in the end, I just couldn't justify the huge expense of the thing. Because, man, the price, when you really think about it and you really weigh it out, just astronomical. I just couldn't hardly justify it. It wasn't a case of me thinking, oh man, I've wanted a Sky Striker for so many years, because we have the perfectly good Sky Striker that I know it isn't as good as this one, but they just released it a few years ago in that scale. I'm honestly shocked that their G.I. Joe HasLab wasn't for the 6-inch scale for G.I. Joe Classified, because that's kind of where it's at when it comes to, the modern G.I. Joe collector's market. Of course, they're about to swing for the fences and try to reintroduce 3 3/4 in a big way, and I hope it works because I love 3 3/4. But they're going to go for the O-ring style of figures, like the old type of G.I. Joe figures. And, that's kind of a risky move, but I hope it pays off for them. I would love to see O-ring G.I. Joe come back in a big way. That would be wonderful. But, man, it all went wrong for Hasbro when it came to that last round of HasLab stuff. The G.I. Joe, the Ghostbusters Proton Pack turned out beautifully for them. That had so much support, and it was legitimately a pretty good deal for what you were getting. But everything else they tried during that same period just kind of blew up, not in a good way. Especially the Rancor monster. Oh my gosh, that was a disaster. Talk about a disaster. That was awful. They need to think long and hard before doing another HasLab Star Wars project ever again. That thing was cursed from the beginning. because they accidentally revealed what it was months before they were supposed to announce it on a live stream. The guy accidentally let it slip. So, in my opinion, bad omen right there from the start. Something was seriously wrong. And then it didn't even hit its minimum. Mass exodus of backers after they revealed the stretch goals weren't any good. Um, I think stretch goals are a dangerous part of the HasLab process. I guess it's a necessary evil to drum up, more supporters and get the hype train going. But those stretch goals are dangerous. Because what you do is you create an expectation that if it doesn't really get the number of backers that it's supposed to, or that you think it will to get those, and if those stretch goals aren't met, then instantly it looks like a bad deal. Yeah, it looks like a bad deal, like instantly. Like the Sky Striker. It didn't reach the last little bit of its stretch goals, even though it got funded and it ended up doing pretty well. Yeah, it should just be what they should just be offering to you exactly what it's going to be. Because I sort of just feel like I'm getting jerked around. Like when it comes to all these stretch goals, I feel like it's like a gimmick. Like it's an upsell or something. And then you have to rely on everybody else when it should just be your decision as a consumer. It almost feels like a Ponzi scheme where they're trying to get you to like guilt your buddy into also backing something else because you want the stretch goals. It's like how many people can you get in on the program? I don't know. It just feels gimmicky to me. And man, it works out great when it's a sentinel situation. Everybody's on top of the world and it's went way above, it's the expected goals and everything's wonderful. It's not so great when it's a lesser known project and they're asking an insane price for something. Had that Sky Striker from G.I. Joe, had it met all of its stretch goals, I would have felt absolutely compelled to have gotten it. If I could have gotten a guarantee, let's just pretend there wasn't any stretch goals and that it was just, like you said, sold on its own merits. It's just, here's all this stuff that you're going to get. Then I would have backed it like early. It wouldn't have even been a question. But instead, me and the rest of the fan base were sitting there wondering to the last second, hey, is this going to hit any of these stretch goals? Because it's not worth it if it doesn't hit these stretch goals. That's a horrible way to sell your product. That would be like if Lego, God forbid, that they ever start doing any kind of crowdfunding. And that stretch goals would be like, I don't know, like here in the Seinfeld apartment, it would be like, hey, if we can hit these stretch goals, then, we're also going to put this part of Jerry's apartment in and this part. It would be a nightmare. You would never know exactly what the product was supposed to be. And if it doesn't hit all the goals, then it feels like a huge missed opportunity. And it's just a disaster. I don't think it's a stretch to say it's a disaster. All right. We are rapidly closing in on the end, and I want to kind of just show exactly how close things are, because unless I'm looking over something, and I don't think I am, I'm looking around to make sure I'm not saying something crazy here. If I mess up, I mess up. But this is bag number 8, and this is tiny little bag number 9, so it almost feels like we can go ahead and just wrap this thing up. Yeah, soup nuts. Yeah. Yeah, we'll give them to you, but only if. But if you don't, then no soup for you. That could be their whole thing. Oh no, we're giving them ideas. This was a bad idea. We're giving them ideas. We're giving them Lego ideas. This was a horrible mistake. Oh man, the guys and they're setting. Where are they? Denmark or something? They're setting there. Maybe this is viable. We didn't think anybody would go for this. So I think that a whole lot of this bag is going to be building Jerry's couch. Like I mentioned in previous live streams, the couch is something that is kind of, it kind of changes a little bit in the show, just a little bit, especially early on. It's things like Jerry selling Elaine his old couch and things like that. So they definitely had to make some decisions about the direction that they wanted to go with exactly what the couch would be like. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do and what decisions they made when it came to this. By the end of this, I think I'll just end up sitting here singing Master of the House to myself. Master of the House. Oop. Be honest, I don't even know what we're building right here. Maybe this is the inner workings of the couch or something, but I truly have no idea. We'll figure it out as the pages turn, I guess. It's a good name for a soap opera, As the Pages Turn. Okay, no, this is Jerry's like shelf of knickknacks. That's what this is, yeah. And this looks like it's going to use all sorts of really weird, like little building tricks and pieces. Like this is going to be one of the weird ones where they're just, it's like one of those things you build and it's like random colors are all through it. Hilariously, if you look inside of like the 1989 Batmobile Ultimate Collector set, looks like Batman has a rainbow explosion going on, like inside the Batmobile, because it's all just crazy colors, you know? Like it's all, because I guess they wanted it to be, you know, easy to distinguish the pieces and little less trouble, you know, to build. So I definitely see why they do that. Makes sense. Once again, this will also be one of those things to where we won't really be able to tell like what all the little minutia is of the mini builds until the thing is put together. Till then, it's probably going to be very confusing little abstract shapes. Okay, we do have some of our maybe our last two, I'm not sure, our last sticker placements going on right here. For this one, let's see. Looks like, yep, prognosis negative. All right. Great stuff. So many great little references in this set. There it is. Hilarious. Get this on there decently maybe and then just move on. Not using any fancy X-Acto knife sliding or anything onto this. We're gonna put it on there and move on. We don't have all day to get these stickers perfect. Yeah, good enough. I like it. And we have another here. Okay. That just goes on one of the little white tiles. Right there. Yeah, that works. I think I've got them on there really good. Okay. And we put the end of the shelf on. Once again, I think some of the most brilliant parts about this build are all of Jerry's like random stuff just crammed into these little nooks, these little shelves. To me, it's the best part. Just getting these little tiny mini builds. Just so cool. Not the kind of thing you would ever think that would ever happen, but here we are. You know, I'll tell you one set that I wanted to really like and be invested in and sort of wanted to get it, but I didn't. And that was the Lego Flintstones house. I really wanted to be more into that than I was. And there are things about it that I really, really liked. But in the end, Fred and Barney, what they did with the face printing for Fred and Barney was so weird that I just couldn't do it. I remember even seeing the set on sale. It wasn't a big discount or anything, but they eventually did a pretty decent little end of the year, like Black Friday sale year before last. for the set on the Lego website, and I just couldn't do it. I wanted to do it. It would have been neat to have had a Lego Flintstones house. And the truth is, it's probably probably the last Lego Flintstones house they ever do, and Flintstones car. But you never know. Maybe one of these days there'll be a new interpretation of the Flintstones, and Lego will go up to bat for maybe doing a new version of it. But it's just something about it. The house wasn't big enough. The minifigures were small and kind of strange with their design theory. For me, it was a really rare time where I looked at what Lego had done and just said, this doesn't really connect for me. It's not really my thing. And I'm sure that there were people who were just crazy over it and who loved it. And for them, God bless them. That's awesome. If you all could have one Hanna-Barbera property as a Lego set, what would it be? Maybe aside from the Flintstones, I guess, since it actually got a Lego set. For me, there's several different possibilities that I would go with. Here's a really crazy one that dates back to like my earliest viewing of Hanna-Barbera cartoons, like in 1990 or 91. Birdman fascinated me to no end. Like, I thought Birdman was the very top of all of those Hanna-Barbera cartoons when I was little. And nowadays, I probably wouldn't think that. But at the time, oh my gosh, I thought Birdman was the stuff. Well, if you remember, Birdman's base of operations was in a volcano. And it's hilarious now because Birdman can never, ever be separated from Harvey Birdman, And I don't mind that. That's funny. But maybe a Lego set of Birdman's volcano lair. That would be incredible. Also, what about Space Ghost and his ship? That would be unbelievable because I'm a huge Space Ghost guy. But honestly, I think most people at this point, they would probably just want Space Ghost's coast-to-coast set. And that's okay. I know most people have no attachment to the original Space Ghost cartoon, but I remember thinking how surreal it was when I was little when Space Ghost Coast to Coast started, and I was an instant fan of it. But the reason I was is hilarious. It's because I was already a fan of Space Ghost. And the truth is, I don't think that'll ever, my generation, because we were watching the reruns on Cartoon Network, probably, I guess, the last generation ever that could say that, oh yeah, Space Ghost. Yeah, I like that action cartoon known as Space Ghost about that totally legitimate superhero who fights super threatening villains like the evil Zorak and Brak. Oh, they're so evil. It's... I don't think any other... That'll never be able to be... Space Ghost can never be seen that way again. But hey, Space Ghost, Coast to Coast, kind of raised Space Ghost profile, so I got no complaints about that. And Space Ghost, Coast to Coast gave me so much laughter growing up watching the show. Me and my brother staying up real late as tiny little kids just to watch Space Ghost, Coast to Coast. Watching the episodes so many times in reruns, it was crazy. And honestly, Space Ghost Coast to Coast is the first kind of indication of that weird adult style of humor that, Adult Swim would eventually just be built on. Space Ghost Coast to Coast is the prototype for Aqua Teen Hunger Force, for all of those classic old first generation shows. I mean, it's the genesis of all of them. Hilarious to think that it almost wasn't Space Ghost that got the talk show, that it was almost Birdman. Because, it probably wouldn't have worked as well. I think Space Ghost, I think they were onto something with Space Ghost that I don't think they could have quite breached if they had done Birdman. Space Ghost has a different vibe. Just the space setting allows for such bizarrety in your humor. And the guests. I remember By far, my favorite was the Batman 1966 special that they did. Yeah, yeah. I sent that to Brandon, the other guy who's on the channel every now and then. Saw that on Twitter the other day, and I absolutely freaked out. I thought, good night, C-Lab 2021 is in the past. I couldn't believe it. I should have already anticipated it. I should have thought about it, but I didn't. Then when that came up, I thought, gracious, here we are. There's so many episodes of C-Lab 2021 that I look back on that are like fever dreams to me. Maybe my favorite of all time is the Bizarros. With the Bizarro, like, I don't even remember. It was like some kind of weird, like, chicken that kept shouting, Bizarro, I love you, Bizarro. Just hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. But the Bizarros is probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And if you've not seen the Bizarros episode of C-Lab 2021, oh my gosh. Ridiculous humor awaits you. Absolutely ridiculous. Also, I don't know what was in the air when they wrote the theme song for C-Lab 2021, but it was good, whatever it was, because that theme song, every now and then, I will just get the C-Lab theme song stuck in my head, and it just stays for hours. So this is an absolutely terrific little Easter egg. And you can see, oh yeah, Bizarro is classic. This is a tiny little blue figure. I definitely feel that this is supposed to be the little Superman statue that Jerry has on the shelf in all those, last half of the show or whatever. I think this is what it's supposed to be. And that is so cool. I mean, they especially, of course they already have the Superman sticker back here, but them going that little extra mile and actually having the figural representation of Superman that is on Jerry's shelf, that's magical. That's absolutely magical. And I'm so appreciative that they did it. It's something that they really didn't have to do, but it's 10 times more authentic because Jerry's shelf of random junk, absolutely, to be complete, has to have Superman on it. And so I am very appreciative. What's funny is this connects to these two yellow studs. So it's a special little, hey, make sure you connect me here kind of spot. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. Nice little accoutrement there. So it looks like we are doing the coffee table now, or at least I think we're doing the coffee table. We are almost done, my friends. This set is finishing quick. Like I said, this is just a completely chill build. I mean, this is, if you want something that's a little less stressful than those giant UCS sets that you see people build, and it's like, honestly, no matter how much I loved it, there's no way I could have live streamed the entire process of me building the 89 UCS set, the 89 Batmobile, because it was just too involved. It was me having to look at the instructions, 10,000 times to make sure I was doing it right, and double checking things a bunch of times and trying to get all of it correct. It was just, it ended up being really, there were stressful elements to it. And even though the set is really a work of art, it still really was nauseating about trying to get some things right. And it's not the kind of thing you could, I don't think, have fun building. So I'm appreciative that this is much more of a zen kind of experience, really. All right. So here we're going to put together some chairs, and once again we have a completely different, completely out there way of building chairs. This is something I talk about in, I don't know, every single Lego video I've ever done. Anybody that's ever watched me knows that I talk about this again and again, and I'm going to continue to talk about it. Lego has no standardized process for building minifig scale chairs. There just isn't a process. For one thing, they really don't have a whole lot of pieces that are like exactly what you would think of for chairs. So they end up coming up with every trick in the book to get chairs to work, like as little mini builds. The last chairs that I built for the Home Alone set weren't very sound in their design at all. What it was they were using like the elephant tusk pieces or the claw pieces, whatever you want to call them. They were using those for the legs of the chairs in it. And it was just a crazy way to do it. Like, it didn't work very well. And now every time when I open up the Lego Home Alone house set, those chairs are like all over the place and they've tipped over, and it's kind of messy the way that was done, which is one of the only things that I didn't like that much about that set. But this seems to actually work out pretty well so far. It's because here the legs of these chairs are actually straight, and these look pretty decent. I've seen some pretty bad looking Lego chairs in minifig scale. These aren't perfect, but they're pretty okay. They're pretty decent. I'm gonna go ahead and what's great is these aren't freestanding either. The ones in the Lego Home Alone kitchen were freestanding, which was a disaster because they were flying all over the place. This actually has little holes, little indentions. You can see them right there that the legs of the chairs are actually going to connect into. Let's see here. There we go. And those are in there really well too. And what's great is because it has the little studs in it, you're able to then actually peg in the legs to where if you want Kramer to set there, yep, he pegs right in. So it's a great way to get everything kind of in there, and there's no stress about everything falling over. And so you can get all of it just exactly the way you want. And that looked great with a Kramer setting there. All right, now we got the chairs. Looks like we're starting to build some of the foundational elements for the couch. It's been a little while since I have built a Lego couch. Maybe the last full-on, full-sized couch. I'm trying to think. Maybe there's one I'm not thinking of. But for sure, I built the Simpsons house, and that had a really nice couch, of course. But that set was definitely very miniaturized, like to the max. I don't think there's ever been a time when Lego probably compromised more about miniaturizing every single notion of like a famous house in order to get it to fit inside of like a dollhouse setup. But that's okay, because I love the charm of that Simpsons house. I love the way it was assembled. I have a feeling that we'll be seeing a new version of the Simpsons house pretty soon, and they'll probably have improved it dramatically, but that's okay. I have enjoyed it just the way it was for all this time. And if they want to do a new version, I know that there's so many people that need a new version because they never could find the original, or they got into it too late. I've been seeing something lately on some Lego YouTube channels that really disturbs me. I guess disturb isn't the right word, but it irritates me. It's that they'll announce like new sets. And in the case of Harry Potter, they're announcing a lot of new sets that have rare minifigures in them, and there's just very little difference to where, it's kind of like a way to give minifigs to the people who missed them the first time. Like, it's obviously that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to be good to new collectors. Well, I'll see these YouTubers who will sit there and complain, and they'll get mad, and they'll just kind of sit there and moan about it because they're angry that the old rare minifig that they had isn't rare anymore. And that is so narcissistic. Like, that's absolutely... How could you not have any more concern than that for the other people in the hobby? I want everybody to be able to have this stuff. I don't know. It floors me when I'm watching that video, and they have the audacity to be like, I just can't believe that they're reissuing this, and why are they reissuing it? And now it makes now those aren't special anymore. What do you mean they're not special anymore? That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Oh, yeah. Yeah, me too. I feel like that is just good for everybody. I'll tell you the people who it's not good for. Yes. Exactly. The people who it's not good for are the scalpers. That's what it really is. That's what really bothers these people. If you are collecting as an investment, that's okay. I mean, I can't tell you what to do. It's not my business. But I can't possibly imagine you actually enjoying the hobby all that much if you're collecting as a means to, I don't know, procure wealth or something. Like you're gonna scalp your way to the top. I mean, it's okay to sell a rare figure for a fair price for that figure. And, you know, people, honestly, it's not so much the seller's fault as it is the buyer's fault. If they want to pay these incredibly ridiculous prices, all they're doing is they're setting the price. They're setting the price, they're setting the market. You know, and we've all played that game before about buying something for way more than we should have. But I'm just saying that, you know, for your own enjoyment of the hobby, you know, give it a rest. Let new collectors get in. Because if you don't give new collectors a chance to like get caught up, then your hobby is going to die. It will. And that's enough of my soapbox right there. All right. I love the color they went with for the couch here. It's not a tone of green that we see a huge big lot. I'm always way more attracted to these kinds of tones of green in Lego sets. I suppose this might be the same kind of green that is on like the roofs, the Hogwarts roofs now. That's a callback to the old original Harry Potter sets. Maybe it's the same kind. Maybe it's a shade off from that. I don't know. But I like it. I think it was a good choice. And it is very, very representative of the couch. So I think they did a good job coming up with something that would be a really good facsimile. It astounds me that there's 7 of these that you put on here to get the curve. But honestly, that's about the only way that you can get a curve like this that will be the right size. Okay, now we have the curve on the back. We actually are going to put some of these little transparent little dials on here. I'm telling you, after we get done with the couch, there is not much more to build on this set. Yeah, we're going to be very close to wrapping things up. And I thank everybody for sticking with me. It's been a lot of fun. And honestly, a much breezier, faster building experience than I thought it would be. I don't know why I thought that there would be all sorts of gnashing of teeth and high-pressure anxiety when it come to building the Seinfeld set, but wasn't the case. Much easier than like the Pirates of Barracuda Bay. Much easier than the Home Alone house. Just breezier, simpler. More funner. Much more funner. Even if it's not quite as detailed. I love what they did with the sides of the couch. The thickness on the arms, it's just quite right. It's just right there. Because it's amazing how much you can mess up the proportions of something as simple as a couch, but you can do it. I've seen some disastrous Lego couches before, so this is a lovely way to do it. Sometimes I wonder if at Lego proper, they've got a guy who's like, you know, let him design the couch for you and I'll design the walls and you design this and I'll design that. Or is it much more of a kind of process to where there's the one guy who wants to like auteur it? He's going to be like, he's going to be the builder of the whole thing. Like, no matter what he's good at, no matter what she's good at, you know. And allow me to grab a piece that I sent flying under a couch. A real couch. There it is. I had to go couch diving for this piece that flew off just then. My bad, my bad. All right, all right. Back in the saddle here, back in the saddle. But yeah, I do wonder how much of a collaborative process that the whole thing is, or is it more of a, I'm going to design it all. This is my set. This is my baby. There's two people that are just going to sit here and just figure it out. Who knows? Who knows? I'd say there's a whole lot of Lego's creative process that they don't discuss openly because they want it to kind of have a little bit of mystery to it. Got to have some trade secrets, I suppose. All right. This goes in the back to kind of fill out the back of the couch a little bit. And it's one of those situations where you've got to put one more little square right there to kind of fill out the rest, or else you're not going to have that even kind of strip. There we go. We have a very exposed back of the couch for the time being. All right. Now we are ready to place it. So we have these little things, and what they're meant to do is just give it something to hook in, I think, to this little strip at the bottom. And what's great is these black studs, it will just give it something to kind of set on, even though it's not actually connecting to anything. That's going to make it look like little legs, like you would see on the bottom of a real couch. So I think that's kind of clever that it just kind of floats above that. There's no actual connection, but you would never know. And, you know, it just looks like it's there. It just looks like the legs of the thing are on the floor. All right, well, very little to go now. All that's really left is it looks like we're going to be doing some like little furniture pieces. Just kind of little odds and ends that are left, and a few other things. We have little things like, this looks like a little, like a tiny, tiny little end table, I suppose. It took me way longer to think of the term end table than it probably should have, but that's okay. And I think that we're going to be putting a lamp on this thing. Oh, I actually really like the way that we're building this lamp. So you have one of these. This just plugs in. And then with this, you just put the shade over it. And such a simple little build just creates this cool little lamp. I love it. Absolutely love it. Okay. And I put that on backwards. There we go. I had it backwards. Ah, that looks a lot better. So we turn this over, and now we've got our lamp on our end table. And that's going to go beside. Now, what's interesting to me is I wonder, does it just sit there? Ah, I think I was supposed to put another one of these little plugins right under this. And then that gives it something to grip on for one of these little black studs right here. So then we can put that on there and it should grip. Yeah, now it's stuck to the floor. See, I love the stability of this, that you don't just have furniture pieces just setting around. I think that would be really unfortunate if it was all just kind of sliding around on the floor. I like stability. I like to be able to move the set, like if I want to do something different with it, and be able to actually move it without everything just flying. because that's miserable, honestly. I've had to move sets like that before, and it was just the worst thing. Nothing I don't think will ever compare to when I moved in the midst of me really building up my Lego collection. And there are still sets from 4 years ago that I boxed up and have not had the heart to try to reassemble and try to get back to the way it was. I had all my displays figured out. I didn't have much room in my old place, but I still had my displays pretty well figured out. Everything was conglomerated together. And now I just look at it like, I don't know, it's kind of a sense of dread to try to get it the way it was. And some of my displays aren't the same. And it's one of those things you have to be in the right mindset before you do, or else you're going to take something that should be fun and you're going to make it work. And that's never, ever what you should do. All right. Getting a little table here. And this is where Jerry has his phone. I always love to see what Lego does with phone builds, particularly older style of phones, which are, 10 times more interesting looking than newer phones. We're just going to get that on there. Then they come with a little pre-printed piece. It's supposed to be all the numbers. And then, of course, the phone receiver that we're all familiar with. It's not too different than other old styles of phones that we've seen in the past. Okay. Right on there. Okay. This goes on the coffee table. One second, guys. Sorry about that. Okay. Sorry about that. So with the coffee table, it has this really neat idea of having a transparent block right here. And you just plug it in, and it just kind of gives the illusion that, it's just kind of floating in this area. That, that way they didn't have to compromise the bottoms of the table to where it can still stay as thin as it needs to, and you would never know the little transparent piece was back there. So I appreciate that. That's pretty cool. All right, now we have a little, I guess, a little recliner / love seat thing that goes over to the side. And there's not very many pieces left right here to work with. So we are definitely heading towards the end with it. Have you all ever dealt with one of these fake eBay accounts? When I say fake eBay account, I mean the ones that are like, they're the accounts that are just absolutely filled with like stock pictures for their items. And they all have lower than expected prices for all of the items. Just by slightly, just enough to get people to buy them. And then when you look at their feedback, they'll have like one or two, but they've been on eBay for like 2 or 3 years. Let's see. Let's try something. Is it just a black screen? Guys, if you lose me, then I will start a new stream, but give me just a second. Can we see anything now? I left the stream and came back, so I don't know if that fixes anything or if we're still in the dark. You just let me know in the chat and I'll see what I can do here. Okay. All right, guys, I'm going to start a new stream real quick, so just look for a new one to pop up.